Mother and Child Reunion is the 20th episode of the 32nd season of The Simpsons. This is directed by Jennifer Moeller, and it's absolutely one of those episodes where I have no idea how I feel about it. Did I enjoy it? I enjoyed bits of it. It has some good messages in it, but as a whole, I wouldn't say I loved it. The Simpsons family go into this magic shop and they end up getting their fortune told, and pretty much all of the episode, apart from a few times it cuts back to the present day, is set in the future with focus on Lisa, and she decides to not go to college, and the reason is because she's burnt out. And I think that that's a really important message, first of all, that it's important to work hard and get your grades and get the exam results that you need, but it's not uncommon for somebody to overwork and for them to get to the end of the school year and think, I can't do 3-4 more years of this or even longer. And I think that that's a really good lesson to take away, that you need to pace yourself. And when she decides to not go to college, we see the life that she would lead. And I don't want to spoil it by saying exactly what happens, but I don't really agree with that on a personal level, and I will explain what I mean by that with a spoiler warning in a moment, but it's certainly interesting and unpredictable, I think. And we do have some interesting moments between Marge and Lisa. And I think that if you're in either position, if you can relate to Marge or can relate to Lisa, I think the way the episode has represented each character's views, I think could be really eye-opening if you are one or the other. So that, I think, was done very well written, very well delivered. Also very well animated. There are, of course, little changes to the characters when we have flash forwards. This is always the case. I feel like flash forwards always have the characters as roughly the same ages. Lisa's never like in her 40s. I guess certain characters wouldn't live that long if we went too far into the future. But the point being is flash forwards tend to be within the same kind of 5 years or so. And I'd like to see something a little bit further into the future, or maybe just a couple of years into the future. What's 11, 12-year-old Lisa like? That's what I'd like to explore. We've seen this teenage Lisa or young adult Lisa so many times, but admittedly not with this particular narrative, and it was still interesting to see, characters being a little bit older and what things would be like for them. So I guess it's okay. It's not the most interesting, and as I said, I don't necessarily agree with one of the messages in it, but the big main message, and I will discuss that in a second with a spoiler warning. But it's well animated. It's not predictable. I like the narrative structure. All of those things work really well. We have some guest voices. We have Werner Herzog, George Stephanopoulos. No problems at all with anything like that. For me, the issue is the message. And I will discuss with a spoiler warning why I have a problem with it. But also I do think it's a good message, but not for me. And I know that's a contradictory statement, but I'll explain what I mean by that. So this is well, actually, it's not really a spoiler warning. Well, it is, because I have to explain what happens to Lisa in order for this message to be delivered. So I'll say spoilers from now. So ultimately what happens to Lisa is that she lives this exceptionally successful life without going to college. And it starts off quite well because she gets a place in a fast food joint and it doesn't go to plan. So she decides to open her own school and things just grow from there. And yes, I really do appreciate the fact that it's saying there are different paths to success. Not everything will fit everybody, and I completely agree with that. But because I am big on education, I love formal education. I can't help it, I always have. And I learn like that. Some people learn by doing, apprenticeships and things like that. I learn by reading books. So for me, to have an episode that's saying, don't go to college, you can get your success a different way. I personally don't like that message. I'm not comfortable with that message. But as I said, my thoughts are contradictory because at the same time, I do agree that not everything will be right for every person. I think the reason I have an issue with it is because it's Lisa, and they're basically saying you're smart, you're intelligent, you've worked hard at school, you've got great grades. Now don't bother going to college, you can just go down this route instead. And I don't agree with that because I don't think Lisa didn't want to go to college. I just think, as she pointed out, she was burnt out. And at the most, they should have encouraged a gap year, not a give up. And I think that there's a difference between the two, and that's what she did. She gave up. And yeah, ultimately, she got her destination, and that's fantastic. But that's very unlikely. If you have the type of career that Lisa had or has in this episode, most times you need some kind of formal education. And Lisa just didn't have that. So I feel like it's a very unrealistic representation of how to achieve your goals if your goals are like Lisa's. It's not impossible, absolutely not impossible, but this narrative would have worked better for Bart. If perhaps Bart was being pushed in his final year of school to scrape the grades he needed to get into even community college, and then deciding, actually, no, I'm going to go and, I don't know, work in a garage and then become apprenticed to take over the garage, build his own empire. I don't know, whatever he would be interested in. But the point is, I think it would have been more realistic, more believable, and more comfortable for the message to be given with Bart. Because I agree, not every path is the same for everybody. But when you're like Lisa Simpson, the only reason she didn't want to go to college was because she'd worked so hard for the past 17, 18 years, basically, that she was exhausted. And again, there's the message that you do need to pace yourself. You need to work hard, but you need to know your own limits and not overdo it. So I don't think they got the messages right. I feel like they used the wrong characters to tell the wrong messages, and they gave the wrong characters the wrong information. So I'm not happy with that. But I do appreciate that they're saying that there are different routes to success, but it's very, in Lisa's realm, very unlikely for her to have achieved what she did, the way she did, without any kind of formal further education. So yeah, I don't love that. I really don't. Mother and Child Reunion, I'm still not sure. I'm pleased I don't do star ratings because I genuinely don't know what I'd do with it. There were some good bits. There were some things that I enjoyed, but ultimately I think I have to say that I think they did a bad job with the messages. They chose the wrong messages for the wrong characters, and for me it just didn't work.